So if you wouldn't mind a brief
Thank you very
introduction
much.
and take it away.
Morning, folks. So I got to meet quite a lot of you last night, but it's good to see so many faces in the room. Let me jump over that and hope that the builds work on the slides. This will be interactive, because that means I have to talk less. So thanks ahead of time, because you will be involved. So there's the name of the presentation. It's right there. Quick introduction to me. That's me. That's me. Obviously, I don't look like my LinkedIn photo, because nobody does. A few little fun facts. I'm a recovering incident responder. I'm okay, but, you know, it takes it out of us. It's been 10 plus years now, and I still like to talk about it. I'm on the advisory board for something called the Hacking Games, so if you want to know more about that, come find me at lunchtime. I help with B-sides. Any of you been to B-sides events in the community? I talked to a couple of you about them last night. Similar kind of vibe to May Contain Hackers in the Netherlands. And I love Formula One. Now, again, last night conversations. Do we have any Max Verstappen fans in the room? Good. You're my friends. Because if we can't agree that this was the finest moment in the entire of Formula One, then we probably can't be friends. Sorry, Stephen. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about. So, first of all, I like memes. I stole that one because you have to. But we're going to talk about visibility, automation, and the speed of technology innovation. There are two letters I'm not going to say for at least 20 slides. So if you can guess what they are. There's a few things about them today. Okay, so we want to do some audience participation. Can people just put their hands up for me, just to make sure your hands work? Can you do that? Okay, cool. First of all, I'd like you to tell me what's going on here. Maybe you can choose someone. You did say you'd pick on people at the back.
Right, let's have a look. Who shall we pick? I did say I'd pick at people at the back, so if we wouldn't mind, one of the gentlemen in front of the monitor next to the camera. I'm afraid that's you.
What's happening here?
Max Verstappen is running.
Max Verstappen is on the track. Anyone know what this is from, this quote? This might age some of us a little bit. Because the first thing you see on here, right, you see Max, and you see Zandvoort, and you see all the orange, and you see the flares. This quote has nothing to do with Formula One, but it's right there. It's actually from this film here. Any guesses on what this is? Ferris Bueller's Day Off, correct. The finest rules for life that you could possibly have. If you don't know what you should be doing today, ask Ferris, he will tell you. Okay, so visibility is important. Sometimes we see what's in front of us, sometimes we don't see everything that's there. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight. In the meantime, our businesses are going at this speed. This is an X-43. This was a test plane that NASA did. In the early 2000s, it went at Mach 9.6, which is around 7,000 miles an hour. It's quite fast. There are no humans in this thing. It has nothing to do with Elon Musk, which makes me very happy. This is pre-Elon, in fact.
I think almost anything that has nothing to do with Elon Musk is a reason for celebration.
Instantly better. But your business is going at around 7,000 miles an hour-ish. This test flight was very cool. This is not actually a picture of it because it goes really fast. It looks more like that, especially with the photo capabilities of the early 2000s. Here it is again, going really fast. A few of them blew up as well, so kind of a little bit Elon-esque in that, you know, blowing up is fine as long as that's part of the plan. So anyway, this is probably what your business is like. It's going at speed. And us as security folks have to take time to figure out like all the stuff that's going on whilst this business is zooming along, whether we like it or not, and we've got other challenges to think about that just came up in that great panel. So we don't get time to stop and look around once in a while, very often, because of that speed. And things are changing. The technology changes, the tools, techniques, and procedures change. The adversaries still are there for money and profit, really, but the way they do that will change over time. Visibility, though, is still, and has been in the 25 years I've been doing this, still one of the biggest challenges that we have. Anyone disagree with that? Excellent. Still friends. I like it. Okay, so it's hands up time. Can you put your hands up? Can you?
I will pick on you if you keep your hand down.
Right, I want you to keep your hand up if you have visibility into at least 25% of your IT environment. That's good. Excellent. Anyone got 50% visibility? Trailblazers, I love it. 66%, that's there for a reason. 66%. Anyone feeling brave? 75%. Yeah? Good? Some people? What about 100? None of us. Sorry? That is an option, yes.
Yeah.
Anyone just give it up entirely? All right, so we did some research. This is going to fill out quite a lot of what we're going to talk about today. A research of 1,100 IT security leaders. This wasn't talking to the people kind of on the front line. This is all leaders, heads of department. It's you guys. So I don't know if any of you actually took part in this, but this was a global survey. We did the research about October time last year, September, October time. And some interesting things came out. So first of all, 66% was there for a reason. So of the global stats that we saw, 66% was what people said it was about the percentage of the IT environment that they could see. And I'm not surprised by this. It's really hard, and it got harder, especially when we all sent everybody to work from home, and people want to stay working from home now, and we've all got devices that we connect to a million things. It was slightly worse for Western Europe as well, not by much, 65%.
Sam, was that made worse by bring your own device post-pandemic?
There's so many things. When you think how many connected devices we had now, I can remember being in talks 10, 15 years ago, and someone would say, we'll have 10 devices on us at all times. Yeah. And people laughed. We were like, what?
Let's have a quick poll. I'm going to ask a question. We didn't rehearse this, by the way.
It's fine.
Who uses their personal phone to access their work email? Yeah. Does your IT department know about that?
But it's true. We connect so many things in. And then you add in, when we're putting our work laptop into our home network, and you've got pick your home assistant of choice sitting there, and the kids doing their stuff, and the games console's connected, and there's so many other things. So there is a blurring of lines as well as to when does that become the IT environment as well? And cybersecurity insurance will often say that is part of your IT environment now, unless you can do something to ensure that that machine is not connected to all those other things at the same time. But anyway, here's us driving down a road. Now imagine if you can only see 65% of this. Oh, this hasn't built properly. I like it. Okay, imagine these boxes, because this is not my computer. Imagine, I'll just be the blocking. There we go. Right, imagine you can see this much of the road now. That should be a box, it isn't. Okay? It's not great because there's cars coming the other way. I showed this to my daughter. She said, Mummy, it's fine. You just need to be able to see the cars coming down the road. And I said, there's a sheer drop. Just there. I want to know where that is. And if I can only see this much of the road, that's not good either. So we wouldn't drive a car if we could only see 66% of the road. That would be a worry, right? We'll get there in a minute with the boxes. None of us are Neo. Sorry. I don't know, actually. Let's just do a quick check. Is Neo in the room right now? No? Oh.
Would you like the red pill or the blue pill?
My daughter's actually called Trinity as well. So it's big in our house.
And by the way, the latest movie, awful.
Did you think so?
Yeah, I hated it.
I've got a tattoo from the latest movie.
What haven't you had a tattoo for?
Very true, very true. Did anyone like the latest movie? Just
no.
Me. I liked it. I went to see it twice. Oh, okay. Well, then just me.
It's because you're a cybersecurity professional used to being in a dark place, so the cinema makes sense for you.
Yes, it's very true. I probably just had a sleep, to be fair. But in the maybe less good sequels to the first Matrix film, there's a part where Neo is blinded, and then he can see everything. But we're not Neo, I'm afraid. Okay, here comes Max again.
I'm sensing a meme in here somewhere.
Do we think, and I think this is more of a discussion point than a hands up yes, no, is 100% visibility ever going to be realistic? Okay. But would you say that some visibilities, sorry Max, get out of the way, are all visibilities created equal? Because you've got your critical devices and services, you've got your high value accounts, you've got the things that attackers are more likely to go after. So, we go down our risk register, we look at, what can we protect? what do we have to think about in different ways? What legacy systems do we have? Can we see visibility into the credentials? So if someone's stolen a credential and they're moving through the network, or they are a disgruntled employee, they're starting to do something different, can we see that? We might not see every single device that they've got, but can we see what's actually going on if someone's moving around in the network? So I think it's arguable that 100% visibility sounds incredible, and maybe in the old world of when we just had on-premise networks, that was fun. You could see a bit more there, but even then things weren't perfect. So can anyone tell me where this is?
Is it the Congressional Library?
No. Closer to home for you and me.
British.
Yep, there it is. Weird logo, I think. They had a massive ransomware attack last October, and they're still not back up completely. In fact, they said they will never be back to where they were, because a lot of legacy systems, they had their risk register. They'd written down that the terminal server was a concern, which is where they think the attackers came in. They don't know, because the damage that was done was so catastrophic. They're not really sure what happened, but they think that's probably where it was. They've just recently released a really, really good 18-page report on what happened and the recommendations, what they've done about it, and then the recommendations more for their industry and the wider world as well, as to where they know that they failed is the wrong word, but where certainly things were not as good as they could be, and the way they're thinking about focusing on security for the future. And they know also that they are a bigger target still now, because that success has happened for the cybersecurity criminals. They got in, they took so much data. There are people still now who can't do their jobs properly, and we're in March, from an attack that happened in October. It was a biggie, but the report's super, actually, and they've been very, very transparent. One of the first things they said was their network monitoring wasn't good enough, and they also had a very flat network, which didn't help. So once somebody got in, they could just run around happily doing whatever they wanted. The legacy stuff, huge problem, huge problem. So they had modern tools. They'd spent their money. They'd gone and got the new shiny stuff, but it didn't work on some of the systems because of this legacy kit that they had kicking around. Which is backed up here. I would really recommend you read the report. It is very good. In 18 pages, it's not too much. And it's written in a very honest and transparent way, which is great. I wish we had more of this going on with breach response and breach reporting. So the second thing they had on their list was on-call experience. They felt they needed to have the ability to call somebody. They didn't have that set up the way that they wanted when it first happened. They had certainly partners who would help them for money at short notice. But they didn't have that retainer sat there so they could just pick the phone up and say, right, okay, we need help right now. And this was echoed in the research that we saw as well. So 65%, and we're going to go more to Western European stats at this point, experienced an incident where they needed some help in the last year, which that's not surprising. You mentioned earlier it's every week. I like to joke it's breach du jour, and then sometimes it's more than one a day. There's websites you can go and look at, whatever you go to for your security news. I guarantee something will happen probably while we're sat here. It's ridiculous. There are that many coming up. I think my slide builds are going to fail as well now. All right, okay, if you can read through lines, this is great. I'll read to you what this says, because there's a lot going on this slide. We asked people about where they needed assistance across threat detection, investigation, and response, because cybersecurity loves an acronym. Kind of two areas, really. Top one was finding a third party to manage our threat detection and response activity. Does anyone here do it completely in-house with no help from a partner or a managed service? I think it's absolutely commonplace. It has been, I think for us in Europe, it's been like this for a long time. My colleagues in the States now are kind of realising that that's important. But here, certainly, that's not a surprise.
Before we move off from that, Sam,
Yeah.
can I ask a question about this? Do you think that some businesses feel, if I just give this to a third party, then my responsibility for it has disappeared? So I can outsource this task, and it goes away, and now I can focus my business on running other sprints and doing other things.
There's two answers to that, I think. One is you never truly outsource because you can't, especially with cybersecurity, right? I think there is a degree of hope for some organisations that is the case, because again, it goes back to, do I have someone to blame? It's not my responsibility. Well, the devil is in the details.
Or it may even be that I just don't have anybody I can give the task to, because, as I think we said earlier, finding these people is very hard, and
it is.
Recruiting them. And
you still own the risk, though.
Yeah.
You can't offload the risk. So
you're still accountable.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And pick your rules of choice that you have to adhere to depending on who you are, what you do, and where you provide services or products.
And read the fine print in the contract.
It's all in the contract. And if you've got a managed provider who goes, here is your report of the bad things every month, what are they managing other than giving you a report? Yeah, it's difficult. Finding the right partner is absolutely key. Visibility into what normal looks like is huge. That came up, and that was particularly so for Western Europe, as my box is going to turn up in the wrong place. Oh, it's not going to turn up at all. Excellent. So this is where things got interesting. So we asked people, and this is one of the first questions actually, about how they feel about the effectiveness of their threat detection capabilities and the investigation and mitigation. 81% in Europe said they thought that it was pretty good. They were happy with that. More so, excellent threat detection ability. Excellent. Anyone think they've got less than excellent threat detection capabilities? Good. This seemed a bit high, I'm not going to lie. Because we come back to this. How can you have excellent threat detection capabilities if you can't see 1/3 of what's going on? So I'm hoping that they felt that they had excellent threat detection capability around this. But then there's still this kind of missing piece. It doesn't make sense to me. But I think there's living with hope, and then there's a realism of, you're never going to get to 100%. But what do you need to do to kind of make the best of what you've got, rather than just saying, well, I can't do that because these are legacy systems. We go back to the British Library. Okay. This does build. Okay, good. We've talked about some problems. I'd like to talk about some more problems now, and a few solutions. And I'm not going to talk about what we do as a company, for the record. And I still haven't said those 2 letters. Yay. Okay.
Couldn't be an IT conference if we don't get there pretty quickly.
All right, I'm going to say that now. Okay. For me, AI is another piece of automation. That's it. It's cool. There's some great stuff you can go do. In many respects, the tech isn't quite yet there yet, but it is, in some respects, faster, better, stronger. In other respects, it is plagiarism. So there's an element of that. And it's such a broad church that there's so many things underneath this. But to me, it's still all part of automation. And I'd love you, please challenge me on this. But the way I think about it, especially with generative AI is pulling those puzzle pieces together. But if you don't have the puzzle pieces in the first place, AI is going to fail you. So, it can't. There's certain things it just can't do, and shouldn't do. Automation, on the other hand, big fan. Because again, automation is a lot of stuff. It's not just, can I get my sim to talk to my Okta, or whatever it might be. But automation, certainly, thinking back to the panel earlier, if we're expecting people to do boring, repetitive work and have a nice day, those 2 things don't really work well together. So there was a question around automation in the research. Firstly, we looked at what features did people want. Automation came up across the board, the top. We want to automate more. We want to give humans the right things to go do, get the computers to do the boring, repetitive stuff. Humans can then do the cool stuff. And they can have breaks sometimes as well. That's nice. Maybe do some training. Okay. Then we asked this question. We asked them how much of your workflow across threat detection, investigation, and response is currently automated. Western Europe had the worst stats out of everybody. A whopping 36% had automated over half of that workflow. It's not good enough. It's really not. And if anything, I feel like this has got worse. Because we did some research 2-3 years ago, and it was around about 50%. Now, I know things have got more complicated, we've got more tools, they don't always play nicely together, but we need to stop throwing humans at a computer problem and get humans on the human problems that they can help with. So we haven't automated all the things at all. So that is a really good opportunity, I think. When you go home, when you go back to your businesses, for me, if you can start looking at this, and I honestly don't care if you buy it from an Exabeam or you build it or you steal it, don't steal it, please. Looking at automation, where can you get those quick wins in, is going to help your people so much. So if this feels real to you, or you feel better about it, there's still always more we can automate, I think. And there's a slide coming up that explains a bit more on that. Here comes Max again. Okay. Whether you understand what this means here or whether you don't is kind of irrelevant. This is an event in a log file. Stuff happened on a day, where it happened, files that have gone on, what the alert is, a few other bits. How many questions do you think a SOC analyst would need to ask to really figure out what is happening here? Anyone like to proffer an answer? How many questions do you think?
I have no idea, and I'm an idiot. That's my stock answer for everything, by the way. I'm an idiot. I think actually there's a lot more, because one of the things we haven't talked about is the context, or even if the log file exists. Now, there's a lot more of that, but I can remember it wasn't so long ago when log files were just routinely either turned off or not used, because, that's just taking up a lot of space. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever looks at them. What value do they add?
Oh, the date format's even right.
Yeah.
You go back to the target breach, for instance, which, does anyone remember that was the breach we all talked about, because that was the breach? Easy days, easy days. And they had the data in the log files. It was there, they just couldn't find it. But I've got this security event now. Anyone think I would need to ask 10 questions? Yeah? 20? Any takers above 20? Anyone want to put a number up? So, pretty much. 45. 45 on average to really understand what's going on here. And if you're doing that manually, not Max Verstappen, but still an orange car, makes me happy. If you're doing that manually, and I don't expect you to read all of these, but there's a lot on there. That's everything from what are the host names, where is the traffic going, is the process authorized, what does the alert mean, why does it trigger, who owns the asset, what's installed. I mean, there's so much you need to ask. And if you need to go and ask that manually, you could spend your entire shift doing that and still not get to the end of it by the end of the shift, especially if you're trying to trawl through log files and, God forbid, you type the wrong thing in the query and you have to wait for it to run. This isn't a good use of people's time. So, 36% have got automated more than half of that workflow. So this is definitely more questions as well. Peter, you might even need to do some running around. I don't know. You don't want to run around.
No.
Okay.
Do I look like a man that runs to you?
Saunters.
Ambles.
Casually.
I think amble would be the word I would use.
I'm not a marathon runner either, my friend. All right. I want to understand what's stopping us from doing automation. Is it just time? Do we think we haven't got enough time to do this?
Let's ask that in the other way. Who thinks they've got more than enough time to do their jobs?
Anyone needs some work to do. You can do some automation. Okay, is it money? Possibly, yeah? We don't have infinite budgets. Sorry, guys, they don't. Is it trust? Because the lovely thing about automation is it will go at speed, and when it breaks things, it will break them at speed. Yes. I used to work for a company that did the world's biggest software download every single day that would either change or delete code on machines. And then one day we managed to release an update that deleted SVC host, which is a fairly critical file, on every XP machine that we could talk to. And we did it really fast. And that was not fun for anyone. Sorry if you were a McAfee customer in April 2020.
At least you failed fast.
We failed. You would not believe how quickly we could fail.
Yeah.
Turns out nobody understood how those update servers worked either. Yeah, good times. Sorry. Okay, so possibly time, very likely money, trust is definitely a thing. Anyone else think, well, why are we not automating as much as we should be? Any thoughts? I think that's fair. It's a very valid point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a priority. It's not considered priority.
We were talking about this last night, about people just wanting to do the same thing over and over again. It's where we're comfortable, right? Any other folks?
Well, once you automate,
Yeah.
it's like Alta California. You can never get out again.
True. And if you've had someone come in and build it for you, and then they disappear off, and no one really knows how it works.
So we've got quite a lot there. We're going to get a microphone, by the way, to pass around. So
Thank you.
at the back there, I'll come back and recap.
One of the where to start, because we have a huge jungle of automation. Where to start, and what resource do we need to start automation? That's another challenge that most of my organization is struggling with.
Don't we often feel like that? We're faced with this enormous challenge, and it's like eat the elephant.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I'm supposed to do it one mouthful at a time, but where do I start?
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. My husband says we need to clean the house, and I'm like, that's nice. So might as well tell me I need to clean the planet while I'm at it. Because
after you, dear.
Yeah, exactly. We've got an Asana board.
So I think there's some interesting things. I'll just recap. So we had, people are afraid that they might lose their jobs. By the way, my experience has been completely the reverse. That people do a much better, more strategic job when you have automation.
Yes.
That it's not a priority. Now, lots of whose business is going through digital transformation in one form or another at the moment? Come on, put your hands up. You're all doing it. Okay. So, as I say, it's going back to this pandemic thing. Everybody's sprinting. Let's do 6 strategies this month, and we'll do another 6 next month. And by the way, we want everything delivered within 2 weeks. Or the great one from the CFO, 90-day payback. Can you show me the payback within 90 days? On something we hope will never happen as a result of what we're doing, which is going to be quite interesting. So how do you measure a non-event?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's other things that you could look at completely, such as employee satisfaction, churn. If your teams are doing training in their own time, not during work time, that's a problem. That is a problem. If they're spending time asking 45 questions of one event, and then they're having to do their training on evenings and weekends, automation, please, please, please. And I'm not just going running and go, we're doing automation today, because rightly say, where do you start? And there are some things you shouldn't automate. There are some things you absolutely shouldn't automate, because we can get really excited about it and go, right, I've got this super complicated process that no one's ever even done before, but it feels good in my head. So let's automate all of that. And that's not where you start. That is a horrible place to start. You can start with tiny things. It can just be logging a ticket automatically when something happens. It's a small piece of automation. Creating a comms event happen when, say, you get a severity 1 issue or a P1 or whatever you want to call it. Getting some of that comm stuff happening automatically. These little things, especially in a crisis, can make a huge difference, because especially if it's something that you do over and over again and you think you've done it today but you haven't, that update that we used to release when I was at a different company, 1,000 mouse clicks every day. 1,000 mouse clicks by human beings before that update went out the door. And that's why it went wrong, because you think you've done it. And that place ran on clipboards. Anyway, don't work there anymore. So we've thought about things that are a barrier maybe, or not quite a blocker, but a challenge around automation, maybe why we think we can't just run in and do it today, and we shouldn't just do everything today by any means. I'm really worried about how this is going to build based on some of the other slides. Let's see. This could be a complete mess, but we'll work around it. Okay, so we asked the respondents what were their top 3 challenges. So I know the writing is a little small. You will get these slides afterwards as well, and the report too. Top of the list was time-consuming investigation processes, which 45 questions for one event, that's pretty time-consuming. Then we've got insufficient threat intelligence, complex tooling, lack of automation, lack of knowledge on how to respond to incidents, limited visibility, that came up, although it's lower here than I think. We've already admitted we've only got 65% in Western Europe. Lack of skilled people, and reporting is a pain in the backside. People never read them, and we never agree on what we should be reporting in the first place. But it takes time. Okay. Oh, this might work. Ready? You can automate this. It helps with this. It helps there, here, and there. And arguably, AI, generative AI, can help with some of these things as well. Certainly when you're onto the investigation process, reporting, that is literally automation, couldn't be any more. But it gives you more time for stuff like this. And also time for your people to have breaks and do some training in office time rather than doing it on evenings and weekends. Learning how to do this often is done through, we'll learn about it when it happens to us. Sitting down with your organisation and doing a tabletop exercise and running through different scenarios. Has anyone run a tabletop exercise for incident response in the last 3 months? Brilliant. Anyone in the last 6 months? Has anyone never run one at their organisation? Nobody wants to answer that, okay. They're really good. They're hard sometimes to get people to come along to because they'll be like, why do security want me to come and play a game with them? Surely I'm very important and will not have to get involved with this pretend game of let's have an incident. And then I found a good way to work around that is first of all, show them have I been pwned and get them to put their details into it. Secondly, get them to write a breach letter, a response letter publicly and put their name on the bottom and see how they feel then about coming to your little game. I reckon they'll come. All right. So, saving some time isn't just about incident preparedness, but certainly that's something that you can do. But it's also there, churn, burnout, retention, training, just being able to put your feet up, not having to work huge hours a day, asking 45 questions of one security event. Time is the most precious commodity in the SOC, without question. So you said about where do we start? And every time I've had this slide in a presentation, this is the one where people take a photo and they put it on LinkedIn, and I'm like, why am I always stood next to a poo? So please don't take a photo. In fact, I might hide in case you want this to take back to the office. So I want to talk to you about your crap, because I think you should find your crap, and that's what you should automate. This is what crap is. Consistent, repeatable, auditable processes. That's where you're going to win. What do we do every time, every day, every week? We can audit it. We know how it works. I'm going to turn around while people take the poo photo. So that doesn't help either, does it? You're in the poo photo with me, though.
Yeah. I've got grandchildren. And a new puppy.
You're dealing with a lot of crap
I'm dealing with a lot of crap at the moment, yeah.
So this can be the smallest bit of automation ever if it's just little pieces of a process. But if you start with this, you understand it better. You understand that process, and you can see and measure easily whether or not it's helping. You don't even have to automate the whole thing. It can just be part of the process. But anything we can do to speed up that aligns to this absolutely will help. So, providing decision support for humans. It's not just about people losing their jobs. It's about them getting better information at their fingertips so they can decide. Not back Max Verstappen. But, this slide is particularly for presenting in the Netherlands for that question. So having effective goals. I've banged on about automation until you're probably sick of me saying it, but I have said less about AI, so that's good. So centralising your investigations, streamlining the response. Efficiency, super important. Have you got playbooks in place? Streamlining with engineering. What can be done self-service? When do we not need to bring in a very expensive set of consultants who won't leave the right documentation behind? These are the goals that we work with when we're working with customers. This is where we get them to try and align their threat detection, investigation, and response. But getting that automation piece in there is so important. And there's benefits, right? It's not just, hey, we've hit our bean counting metrics today in the SOC, we've done this many malwares and this many phishings. The operating costs go down. Saving money is fun. I love this slide. I don't know if you take a minute just to have a look at it. So much recognition for that. Certainly as someone who's been working in IT security for 25 years. That's pretty much the internet right there, right? That's us leaning on that AWS server merrily on the east coast of America. It's working now. What could possibly go wrong? Increasing revenue, always good. But the biggest thing for me is about people. If we can't help our people have a better day at work, to feel like they've done security today, thank you, not just been searching around in log files, being a glorious database admin, when actually they want to come in and solve security challenges. That's where the win is. But these things all help, and your organisations will appreciate them, guaranteed.
That's a quick question. We've got about 5 minutes left, by the way.
Yes.
In IT and security, how many of you, when you were 15 or 16, thought, I want a career where I'm going to spend all day looking in log files? Yet, what, nobody had that as an aspiration? Just me, then. I think this is one of the things we talked a little earlier about, offering people a career progression. It's a bit like saying to an accountant, the next 40 years of your working life are going to be in Excel. It's like, no.
Yeah, we want to do security. And what that looks like is, going home at the end of the day feeling like you've done a good job isn't just, I closed this many tickets today. If you can see the benefit of your work, and yeah, absolutely, you see your career path, and you have time for training, time to spend with maybe other teams. You can go and sit with like a threat hunter for a while and look at what they're doing proactively versus just literally dealing with fires endlessly and not having the tools to help you and not having the culture and the metrics around it to drive the right behaviours. Automation. Come back to automation. So I said, please don't steal things because I said so. There are certainly many ways to go on that journey. The journey starts with crap, every time though. If you can take that one piece of information away and not post a picture of me next to a poo, that would be really good. But yes, absolutely. There are many ways forward. You have to understand what works for you. It could well be a partnership with somebody. It could be you can do this stuff in-house. Just some final thoughts, as we're nearly at the end. It's in the style of Jerry Springer. So AI is part of your automation journey. It has to be. Now, it's not going away. It's not going to solve every single problem for you, though. And on behalf of the vendor community, sorry that we've gone crazy about AI because it's on every bloody marketing email right now. And I think there's some great talks coming up to understand, where this fits, what are the risks, how are the bad guys using it, how can we make it successful for us? But it's just part of a bigger thing. People, people, people. Decision support, absolutely. It's not about losing people's jobs. It's about giving them interesting work because there's always more work to do. Keeping things simple. Find your crap. Automate your crap. Don't try and automate things that aren't crap to begin with. And then we went back to our X43 earlier. We're not going to slow down anytime soon unless somebody please unplugs the internet, which I don't think they're going to do. So we've got to keep going faster. If we keep throwing people at a computer problem, we're not going to be able to keep up. There's the report. I'm sure we will send it to you because you're in this room right now. Do have a look, take it back to your organisations, have a discussion around it. If that doesn't look like your organisation, cool. But I think there's some things in there that we can all learn from. Maybe the visibility side of it, maybe automation, maybe something else. And we've got literally no time for questions. Well, I will be around.
We've got about a minute and a half. So does anybody have a question for Sam? We've got a microphone here. I've got a question. So who's been in discussions about minimum viable product, MVP? Anybody? Has any of you thought about your MVB, your minimum viable business? What it is that's the core that you need to protect? Because one of the things I think Sam mentioned is that it's not all equal, right? We don't see everything, but there are some things that if we lose this, we lose the whole game. And that we need to perhaps have a stratified approach to security. Say, well, absolutely, this has to have guardians all around it. Anybody had any discussions with their leadership teams about what's our minimum viable business? What's the absolute core we can't afford to lose? Yeah, a few of you. So it's coming up as a topic now. So there are bits like, well, if somebody's personal phone blows up as a result, frankly, as an employer, I don't care. It's your phone, your problem, right? But if I can't transact, and this is one of the things, the other thing is the carrot and stick, in that we often talk about things like reputational impact. I'm sure that's come up if we've had a breach and the impact from reputation. That's bad, but leaders often think of that as risk. And I can take out cyber insurance for that, which, by the way, doesn't cover you. No. But they hope that it does. But what if you told them, well, what would happen to our business if we can't do email for 3 weeks, or our finance system is going to be down for a month, or procurement is going to be unavailable? These are real money issues, and when you're talking to power, talk money, because that gets them.
100%. That should be in your tabletops as well. going through that of like, do those big scenarios. Do those big scenarios. You might have noticed an edit on this one because, like many amateur photographers, I do also like to play around with occasional editing. And if anyone's not following the Kate Middleton story right now, please go and have a look. It's brilliant. How many Max Verstappens were in this presentation? There is a prize waiting for you on the Exabeam table.
25. Between 7 and 11.
Between 7 and
If
11.
you count the one that it showed 4 times, then it's 11.
Any more?
42.
Good answer.
42.
I mean, to be honest, you went with that answer anyway, so that's fine.
Right.
It was 12.
Right. Well, with that, Sam, thank you very much. Will please join me in thanking Sam. Wonderful.